It's the last game of the season, the first season of Luke Fickell in charge, and the first game of 2024. Can the Badgers end the season with a win and start the new year off right? We get into all that on a New Year's Eve special of the Bucky Report.
Welcome to the Bucky Report, your destination for all things Wisconsin Badgers. Authentic takes.
Oh my God.
Game analysis.
Touchdown Badgers! Ring one up!
And discussion from the fan perspective.
Woo-hoo!
Thanks for joining us and on Wisconsin.
Welcome into the Bucky Report. We are your hosts, Rajiv and Justin, in for a little New Year's Day preview show to, of course, talk about the Reliaquest Bowl, formerly known as the Outback Bowl, formerly known as the Hall of Fame Bowl, where Wisconsin will take on LSU. We're also going to get into the college football playoff, talk about those games, Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Texas. Short, quick discussion about the two other games tomorrow, Oregon, Liberty, and Tennessee, Iowa. And then we will give you our predictions on all of those games, including, of course, the Wisconsin LSU game. We are at the Bucky Report on Twitter, at the Bucky Report on YouTube, and wherever you can get your podcasts. If you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button or the follow button on the podcast. Thank you very much for helping us. We just reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube today before the end of the year, Justin, which was a little goal of ours. So thank you. Thank you all for all of your support. We really appreciate it. This has been a really fun experience for Justin and I. Obviously, we've Justin's been doing this for a while. We both were on Locked On, and we still are. But it's fun to do our own thing and to do this. So thank you all for your amazing support. Justin, Happy New Year. How are you doing, my friend?
Happy New Year. And it's funny how me making a projection that we're going to beat Arizona gives us a massive boost to people signing up to sub. I'll take that. So apparently when I make really dumb predictions, we gain a ton of subscribers. So I'll see what I can do going forward.
Oh, man. Absolutely crazy. Thank you all again for joining us. Ryan Willie says, thank you for letting the older Badger fans participate by having an earlier chat. Yes, Ryan, we normally do this at night. We are happy to do it a little earlier today, and we're going to try to do that a little bit more. Of course, as you all know, I live on the West Coast. It's a little bit harder for me to do later shows, to do earlier shows, meaning obviously during the week, but we will definitely do our best. And Ryan also says, I'd rather see Locke at quarterback than Mordecai. I want to see if Locke can show us if he can be a quality backup QB. We'll get into more of your comments as we get on with the game. So let's get into the Reliaquest Bowl. Again, formerly as the Outback Bowl. That's the game that the Outback Bowl is the name that I most remember it as, because it was the Outback Bowl from 96 to 2022. So that's, it's mostly the Outback Bowl. Noon tomorrow, Justin. LSU's Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, Jayden Daniels, will not play. That's a little bit of a bonus for us. However, their two top wide receivers, who we were kind of hoping were also going to opt out because they're going to be NFL picks, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. are playing. So really the only impact they have on their side, on at least on the offensive side of the ball, is Jayden Daniels. Also one of their interior linemen, Marlon Martinez, I believe his name is. He's also missing. So we've got a lot missing, not a ton, but obviously with DK and Allen being the two big names that are missing, it's going to be a little tougher. What are your initial thoughts going into tomorrow?
I am not real confident in this one, to be honest. And it has nothing to do with for me, it's just what this season has been. I think we'll compete in this game. I question whether we have enough firepower to be able to take them down. Now, it really depends on what LSU's backup quarterback is capable of. But I would like to believe that some things started clicking in bowl prep, and suddenly we're going to look much better offensively. But I think we are where we are at this point. We'll see what happens in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the desire is always the thing that I'm most looking forward to, and I feel like I've said this before, even on this week's show, that I think Wisconsin does that really well. We've always shown a lot of desire in these games. A lot of teams don't. We're going to be outmatched. We're going to be outmatched in a lot of ways. We're going to get into that a little bit more as we break down the game. But there are a lot of players on that team that are playing in the NFL, and there's not a lot of players on our team playing in the NFL. And of course, losing DK is a big deal. So it's just going to be really, really difficult. But we show the desire. And the young guys are playing, as you mentioned. We want to see those young guys get into it. So there's so much to look forward to when you talk about all those guys that are going to get a chance.
Yeah, Tyler Strieber, are we in jeopardy of getting Florida Stated tomorrow? I don't think so. I think we're gonna we'll be competitive in this game. The issue is going to be, can we score enough points to actually do anything? Like, I think our defense is good enough to hold them under wraps a little bit, because Daniels was their catalyst. And you take him out of there, regardless of what you get from the next guy, it's not going to be the same. Like, this guy's not going to go out there and they're probably not going to score 50 on us. You know, I think what we're looking at as the baseline on this is kind of like what we've done most of the season. Hold them under 30, right around 30. And Wisconsin, we just have to find a way to score, like, if we want to stay in the game.
Yeah. Find a way to score is not always easy for this Wisconsin team.
Especially when your bell cow's gone.
Right. Now, that being said, we'll get us into the game a little bit. LSU is not the greatest defensive team out there. Mm-hmm. However, if you look at who they played some pretty powerful teams. But offensively is where this team will get you. LSU scores 46.4 points per game, 547 yards. They're pretty balanced, 405 rushes to 366 passes. However, Jaden Daniels ran the ball 135 times. So a big chunk of their rushing is from Jaden Daniels. Outside of that, Logan Diggs, 5.5 yards a carry, but it's the receivers, 2 receivers. I mentioned him earlier, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., 146 catches, over 2,600 yards, and 29 touchdowns between the two of them. They are both playing in this game. So, Justin, we know that LSU can put points up. Okay, so we'll get back to that in a minute. LSU's defense, however, has given up at least some issue. They have some issues in the secondary. A lot of teams have scored over 40 points on these guys. They give up 409 yards per game and 27.8 points per game. Some of the better teams have scored 35, 42, 55 on them. Ole Miss put 55 up there. And some of the teams that are not so good, Auburn scored 18 against them. Army didn't score at all. So they're a bit of an up and down team, but there is something that can be said about their defensive secondary. We can get them. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't have DK. Bell hasn't been much of anything for us, but without DK, without Braylon Allen, let's talk about that specifically on that side of the ball. I mean, Mordecai has had a decent year with extra practices. Justin, are you expecting any kind of a lift here, any kind of a jump from Mordecai, a good game from him? Obviously, he uses his legs really well. What do you want to see offensively in this game?
Sure. Well, I mean, his last game was probably his best game of the season. So if we can have him build off that, and if we can get 200, 250 yards passing and a couple of touchdowns out of him, that'd be a huge lift to the offense. I don't know what we're going to get from the rushing game, but I would like to see Mordecai take a step. Now, I don't know. We can debate whether Bell or DK is an absolutely huge loss given the productivity that we saw during the course of the season. They have got to get a ton out of Pauling in this game, and Green is going to have to step up, and so is whoever is going to be opposite of him, probably Anthony in this game.
Vinny Anthony.
And I think Vinny Anthony's capable of doing some things. He's got some athleticism and speed on the outside. It will be interesting to see how he holds up against SEC corners.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm worried about our ability to score tomorrow, to be honest with you guys. I just feel like I know this team has given up a lot of points, but you're talking about a Badger team that struggled against Northwestern and Indiana and Illinois for a half to score points. I think Mordecai does give us probably the best chance to win right now. I mean, of course, as a listener said earlier, they want to see Braden Locke. I think Mordecai's last game, let's see what he can do. He's experienced. He's going to be able to do that. But ultimately, the question is, can Acker, whatever, and Yakimelli actually get yards? Can they be productive offensively on the ground? Because SEC defensive lines are always big and always good. And I know that LSU gave up a lot of points, but they gave up a lot of points to SEC schools. So let's be honest about this. Like, this is not going to be easy to put up points, but we're going to need to, because as I said, they are putting up 547 yards a game, and we defensively haven't really been able to stop that so much. So keeping on the offensive side of the ball. So you mentioned, obviously, Vinny Anthony's going to be playing. Jake Renfro is going to be starting at center. So that'll be exciting. Hopefully get some better snaps. But of course, a new offensive line can always be difficult from a protection standpoint. One player that we're both really wanting to see, Justin, is Trek Kekahuna. Tretch is the guy that, of course, freshman wide receiver out of Las Vegas, Bishop Gorman High School. Clearly a guy that can get great separation and someone that we really want to see. Do you expect him to have a lot of catches tomorrow? Do you give me an over under on catches you think Tretch is going to have tomorrow?
It'll be interesting because he's in the slot. What we actually get out of him. You'd have to take a look kind of at what Bell has done this season. He could have as many as 5 catches, 6 catches. He could have as few as 1 or 2. I think they actually are going to use him a little bit. I actually think he's one of the few guys that I feel pretty good about being capable going out there. Like Tretch's ability, I think, plays against anybody. I think he's capable of causing problems for a corner trying to sit on him in a route. I just think he's got that much short area quickness that he's a problem for teams that are going to be trying to cover him, and especially if you can isolate him on a linebacker. But even against a nickel corner, a good nickel corner is still going to have their hands full with him because he's that athletic and quick in the short area.
Yeah. From a game plan perspective, Justin, what do you think we really need to do as far as, splitting run and pass? Obviously, we don't have BA back there. Do you expect to see Aker getting a lot of carries? Do you think Mordecai is going to be doing some planned runs, designed runs? What do you expect to see as far as play calling? Because, we don't have typical weapons, right? So that's going to affect the way things are done.
Well, I think you're going to have to lean heavily on your offensive line in this game. And hopefully you can dictate the pace of the game by running the football. I don't love what we have in that stable, but it is what it is in this game. Hopefully Aker and Yakimelli are capable of giving us some good yards, and hopefully we get something out of the QB run game. And you're going to want to grind clock in this game. I just think you want to limit the opportunities. I know we're jumping back to a Paul Chris style offense, but in this game, when you're so limited offensively, if you want to play this game, you're going to have to. And I think they need to keep the defense fresh because you have 2 NFL wide receivers on this team. I realize it's a backup quarterback. I think we have struggled to get home. Like if our defense is more capable of flash plays, I'd feel better about it, being able to get to the quarterback and causing issues and forcing him into some bad throws. It'll be interesting to see what we can do there. Hopefully Allegro shows out and he shows some pass rush ability in this game.
Right. So, we'll get into the defense next. Yeah. So, again, they score a ton of points. They throw the ball over the map. Now, obviously, their starting quarterback is gone. So, Garrett Nussmeier will be the quarterback tomorrow. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a lot of experience on the year. So, you're right. If we can get
But he's been good in the limited time that he's had.
Right. Exactly. And he has his weapons. Like, it's not like Mordecai who lost some of his weapons. He has everybody, at least the guys that have, caught 2,600 yards in passing. Defensively, Justin, we've gone through this situation where we seem to let a ton of points in early, and then we slowly get into the game. We make the right adjustments. This is probably the number one thing that concerns me the most. I just have this number in my head. I feel like LSU is going to score 40 points, and I'm so worried about that because if that happens, there's no chance we're putting up 40 against the LSU defense, even though they are technically the good part of their team. That's really my biggest concern. I just don't know what we're going to be able to do to stop them. Yes, we've got decent secondary play, but we've talked ad nauseum about our linebackers. Christian Allegro is the guy that has to really make that impact. But on the D line, we lost Rodas Johnson. Obviously, we've had some guys who've had decent years. Curtis Neal's going to probably get some time. Do you think we can do anything to really shut these guys down? You mentioned pressure. Is that what's really necessary to get Nussmeier off the spot and to make him uncomfortable?
I think the defense will be solid in this game. I actually don't think they're going to get to 40. And I think that a big part of that is the fact that you have a quarterback coming in that we really don't know what to expect from him. I don't think he's the running threat that they had in Jaden Daniels. And
he's
really
the
reality that you're looking at here is Wisconsin just needs to make him uncomfortable. You have to get to be disciplined. But we really haven't been bad defensively. I actually think the defense is pretty good. And what we need to do is we just need to limit the opportunities for big plays. Most of the season, even the games that we've given up yardage or points early, it hasn't been big plays for the most part. So if they can lock that in and keep them from scoring early and hopefully get them on their heels a little bit, it'll be a big deal. I just think that looking at Wisconsin's offense, the best defense against Wisconsin's offense is Wisconsin. We've shot ourselves in the foot so many ridiculous amount of times this season where we had opportunities to make plays. And that has got to stop in this game if they want an opportunity to make LSU uncomfortable. And by doing that, I mean you need to consistently continue drives. rather than having 3 and outs or, folding under plays that are gettable. So we have to find a way to make that stuff happen. I don't know. This game is so interesting because there's so many outcomes that are in play. Like, this is not a game where you're looking at it like we're playing Iowa, where it's going to be like, if somebody scores over 25, it's going to be shocking. This game, there's so many outcomes. Like, if Mordecai plays stupid and ends up having a bunch of picks, we could get blown off the field.
I mean, let's be honest. That's definitely one of the possible outcomes. We are playing. I mean, it's for sure. Let's get into some of your guys' comments. Badger and Bournemouth. Bournemouth, sorry, buddy. My Tottenham Hotspur team beat you this morning. As you know, we already chatted about it. Happy New Year's, guys, from Badger, Bournemouth. Tyler Struber said you guys are awesome. Happy New Year to you. Rob Smith, I see your comment about Walker. We have not talked about him yet. We will talk about him in a little bit as we get into it. Tyler Struber says, guys, what needs to change? Bowl season used to be so fun, and now the portal and guys sitting out for the draft take the fun out of it. Justin, what's your take on this and how the bowl season has changed and with the entry of the transfer portal and everyone opting out?
Well, I think there's some ways that they can attack this, and likely what they would do is build into their contracts for the NIL type stuff and just say, hey, you have to play the bowl game or the contract's null and void. So if you can find ways to put that in writing that they have to play that game, that's where you end up getting it. Otherwise, you need to find a ways to incentivize these players to get them out there player. There's still probably going to be some guys that say, screw it. I have big money on the line. I'm not going to risk it. But I think there are ways that you can work across this. When it comes to transfers, I just don't know what you're going to do there.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're going to not open the window until after the season ends, I don't really know how you're going to be able to work around that.
And realistically, the window being open in December makes sense because it allows these kids to get
in. It works with school academically.
Right. It works for school, which is important, and it gets them a chance to get enrolled at the other school, get ready for spring ball, and be in the mix, which is important. Dark Ray agrees with you. NIL needs to mandate these guys play bowl games. ATX Mark, Happy New Year. Always enjoy listening to you guys and Ryan talk Badgers. Happy New Year to you. Daniel Bloom, thank you for the comment. And there was one other one that I really wanted to bring up here. Okay. Tyler Struber says portal shouldn't be open until after bowl season, in my opinion. Yeah.
Academically, it won't work.
It's tough.
It's just most of these guys have to actually be enrolled already by that point, and then you're going to have all sorts of tampering and stuff that would potentially come into play with that. So it's just not feasible to do it that way. That's why the December window is open, because they're looking at it from an academic standpoint. When can these guys actively be able to get enrolled at a new institution and be able to get ready? Now, it helps a little bit that some of the schools aren't starting until mid-January, but it really puts a time crunch on some of it.
Right. Dark Ray says, we've struggled with blocking against elite teams. Even when we've had elite O-line play, we're definitely going to struggle running tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, obviously without Braylon Allen, we're going to struggle. But yes, there's no doubt about that. That's been an issue all year. Deborah says, Happy New Year. Looking forward to the game tomorrow. I'll bet the Badgers are excited to be playing this game. Thanks for joining us, Deborah. Bo Dragon, LSU's too deep on the line of scrimmage is way better than ours. They should run for 300 yards. The ever optimistic Bo Dragon, as always. Question from Tyler. Expect any trick plays being implemented with the extra time to prepare? Justin, do you think Longo would have got some extra creativity going into this game?
Longo seems to have creativity in general. So I would expect, yes, there will be something that will be like, oh, that's an interesting wrinkle, or something new that we haven't seen. But yeah, I mean, we had the Philly special in the third game of the year to pick up a play. I fully anticipate Longo is going to go out there and actually throw us some things that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. Badger and Bournemouth fan. Why does everyone think our D is really bad? It was pretty decent this year. I'm not saying
25-ish.
It was decent. My issue is that the way we've started off games has been really, really bad. I mean, i.e. the Northwestern game, Indiana game, Illinois game. Like, we've just had so many games where we've given up points early and often that puts us in a hole, and then we're constantly chasing the game. Now, that being said, the defense has done a great job after that. I mean, and especially in the last 2 games of the year, we were able to shut down teams. We were able to make that happen. But I think for me, Justin, I'm so used to seeing a very prototypical Wisconsin defense that is hard-nosed, stops the run well. And we've been gashed a few times. And that, to me, is what's really sticking with me about when I say bad defense. I'm really more focused on the fact that Teams can run outside against us. Teams can run inside against us. Our middle linebackers aren't making plays. Our outside linebackers aren't really making plays. Our D line isn't really able to stop anybody. So while I don't think we have a bad defense, it's just not where defenses have been in the past for Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think part of the issue with that is does LSU really want to come out there and run the ball 40 times? Because that's kind of the game plan that they probably could do that and run at will on us to an extent. And who knows, maybe the extra month worth of time of development and stuff like that has changed some things there. But that definitely is our weak point on this. But I think the biggest reason why we look at this defense and people think that it's not that great is that there's just not a lot of disruption. Like, we don't see quarterbacks running for their life like we have with some of our previous pass rush guys at the outside linebacker position. And because of that, you're used to seeing us have to rely on incomplete passes or guys breaking up plays and stuff like that, or stopping them short rather than, dealing with some of that stuff.
Yeah. Zach Bart's 12-team playoff will help a lot with opt-outs. A lot of players may not opt out with a national title on the line, and going from 4 to 12 teams may help curb that. 100% agree with you, Zach. Bo Dragon also says the playoff expansion will put pressure on players to play instead of opting out. I think we can all agree that once the playoff system is changed, yeah, obviously you're not going to see any of these guys, any of these teams that are currently playing in the New Year's Six Bowls. Well, they'd be playing in the playoffs. So we're not going to see as much of that become an issue. Justin, kind of ending our discussion about the LSU Wisconsin game, we're going to give our prediction at the end of the show. Who will most surprise you with the performance? What's the player that you feel like is going to surprise us all? Not someone that we're actively really talking about. I know we want Allegro to really do well, but name a player that you think is going to just surprise us and have a great game tomorrow.
I think Pauling will have a good game in this one. I think they're going to try and take him away, but I question whether they're going to truly be able to do that. And I wouldn't be shocked if Mordecai actually plays pretty well. I'm not going to put anything on it statistically because that's been a train wreck with him, but he's been a gamer. He's been a gritty guy this season where you look at it at the end of the day and you're like, you know what? He just plays his butt off and he gets things done. He may end up rushing for 70 yards in this game because he keeps, breaking off plays or making things happen when there's not pass plays to be made. But it'll be really interesting to see who else actually gets thrown in there to be a part of this game. And maybe Nazir Fokarine shows us some things. I know you're not a huge fan of him, but I thought he actually came on quite a bit as the season went on.
I don't know what
game
you were watching, bud. Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I suppose that's okay. I think Tretch is going to be the guy that I really hope to. I want him to get like 4 or 5 catches tomorrow. I don't know if that he will, but you're right. Being in the slot, who knows? But that's the guy that's going to surprise us. Tyler Strieber says Jamel Howard, I think, is going to be allowed to eat up front tomorrow. Yeah, that's a good point. Badger Borman says LSU isn't a good running team this year. True. I mean, Logan Diggs had 5.5 yards a carry, but obviously most of their running came from Jaden Daniels, who's not going to be there. So that's obviously there. Justin, we had a comment earlier about Tawi Walker, the new running back recruit. Any thoughts you have on him? What do you think about him joining the running back room? I know you and I and Ryan were texting about it. What's your take on Walker?
Yeah, I thought it was something. I really liked the idea when we had kind of heard some things behind the scenes that they might be bringing in a guy. I thought that it was a good idea. I just don't think that you can rely on Ches. And Brian and I have kind of gone back and forth on Ches, him thinking that he's just unlucky. And I'm like, well, he's been unlucky to the tune of 3 season-ending injuries in a row. Like, I don't want to go for a 4th and then be left sitting there going, well, it looks like we're playing the freshman. And that's no slight to the freshmen at all. I honestly think they're going to pick up more of the workload as the season goes on, and they'll probably have the bulk of it by mid-season. But I think it's a lot to ask them to come in and be able to do the little things right off the bat, and even have the playbook locked in when 2 of the guys aren't even going to be on campus until summer conditioning.
Yeah, I mean, I also disagree with Ryan. I know he has a pretty strong take on the fact that he's not injury prone. He's just unlucky, and he's had freakish type injuries. And yes, the Purdue game was a freakish type injury, but I mean, when you have a guy that's, you're right, 3 season-ending injuries, that's kind of part of who he is and its identity. And like, I don't like it. I love Ches Malusi, and I wish he would have played all year this year because we would have been a far better team with him playing. But it is what it is. And irregardless of whether it is truly unlucky or injury prone, he could get unlucky again. The bottom line is he's been unlucky for multiple years in a row. So I think This is an insurance policy, right? I mean, when you lose Braylon Allen and you don't, and all you have is Ches, and then you've got the guys we currently have with Aker and Yak, and then you've got the freshmen. I think it's a really good insurance policy. You need someone who has got a little bit more experience, and someone who you feel like can slot in there and play the college game right off the bat. And if for some reason, like Dupree and Jones are ready to go and Ches does get hurt, okay, that's fine. I'm all for the freshmen starting and never even seeing Walker if the other guys are great. But I like the addition to the room because the room needs experience. Now, that being said, I think you also can look at the current room as it sits, and I don't know that all those guys are going to be on the roster come the fall, Justin. I mean, between Aker and Yakimelli, we may be losing one of these guys, whether it be a transfer portal or maybe just forcing him out to save the scholarship. I don't know. I just feel like at this point, that is a pretty big room, right? I mean, when you're talking about Ches and Walker and Aker and Yakimelli, and then of course Nate White's still in there, and then you got Jones and Dupree and Atuka. I mean, that's a lot of people. Do you think someone leaves?
I think if anyone's going to be moved or is going to leave, it's going to be Yakimelli. And I think it may come down to giving the opportunity to move and saying, this is what we have to offer right now. We feel like you have some positional versatility. Are you okay with jumping over to the, safety again, or even wide receiver? I know the wide receiver room's a little light right now. I think he's got the size to actually play on the outside. I thought coming out of high school, he reminded me of Alex Erickson when you watched his film. And but the problem with that is I don't love the fact that he's got 2 years of jumping around under his belt now between playing that position, which makes me look at it like, man, Nate White, another one, somebody else is Jeff Garden too are mentioning. I don't know. We don't know if he's going to be able to gain weight. It'll be really interesting to see what he comes in at the spring. If he's around 180, it's probably the end of the road for him as a running back at that point. If he's only put on 5 pounds after a year. So we'll see. I've heard he's really undersized yet. I might be wrong on that, but if that's the case, then you're probably not going to see the light of day with him long-term because he just won't have the body to be able to stack up.
I mean, look, the bottom line is there's a lot of people that are there in that room, and so we're not going to see a lot of them play, but I think we're all excited about Jones and Dupree and Atuka coming in next year, so hopefully things are good there. But I think the Walker pick was smart, and I think I'll tell you what, the transfer portal, I think Fickell's done a great job, and we're going to keep picking that apart as it goes on, and once we kind of finalize the spring roster, then we'll obviously talk more about that in the coming weeks. But let's move on. We're going to get predictions for the LSU Wisconsin game at the end of the show. Let's move on to the college football playoff. And there's one thing I want to talk about right away. And I know that I feel like you have some thoughts on this as well. Surely everyone who's listening to this caught the score of the Georgia-Florida State game yesterday, and it was an absolute thrashing. And I just want to give my thoughts on everyone saying that, well, this shows FSU shouldn't have been in there and in the playoff. And I think that's nonsense. FSU still should have been in the playoff. And yes, I realize that means Michigan would have wiped the floor with them, but also it means that they wouldn't have had as many players opting out. So maybe it would have been closer. Florida State had tons of players out. I mean, the list was astronomical.
It was like 30 players
of who opted out
between
transfers
and opt-outs.
Yeah, I mean, give me a break. So again, I will say that this is an undefeated Power 5 conference team. I don't care if they lost their quarterback. They deserved to be in the college football playoff over Alabama, over the ESPN SEC team that I know brings in a lot of money, that I know brings in ratings. And I hear all that and I understand it. And if you watch that game yesterday and you're thinking, well, I mean, geez, Florida State was clearly crap. Good thing they didn't get in. This is what we mean by the best teams. Well, let me tell you who one of the best four best teams were. It was Georgia. It wasn't Alabama. And I know
Georgia mailed in the SEC title game where they should have kicked Alabama's butt.
Absolutely.
And they didn't get it done.
I really just can't get on board with this whole discussion about Alabama over Florida State. Florida State should have been in there. I know they got thrashed yesterday. Do you agree with me, Justin? Or I think you and I are on the same page in regards to this.
No, I'm 100% on the same page. You can't play hypotheticals with this because otherwise, what the heck is the point of playing the season? It infuriates me when you see people, oh, it's the eye test. How do you quantify the eye test? Like, you can't do that. We actually Wisconsin has been stung by this previously. Mm-hmm. Alabama went and won the title the year that they went in. The year we were 13-0, they didn't play in their title game. we played in our title game, lost to Ohio State. It cost us a slot in the playoff. We actually had, I believe, going into that final game, one of the metrics was that had us for strength of schedule, had us ahead of Alabama to that point in the season, which tells you how terrible Alabama's schedule was that year prior to playing the 2 playoff games, which clearly bumped their strength of schedule through the roof, which you're facing 2 top 10 teams then after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first football playoff game is, of course, Michigan, Alabama. Alabama is actually, I mean, obviously they're playing really well. Milroe is found good form. He's definitely their quarterback. He's playing okay. Alabama obviously started out the year a little tough. They did lose to Texas. Look, I know there's a lot of discussion about Michigan in general, whether or not they've Connor Stallions, all this stuff. Do they deserve to be in here? But I think Michigan's a really good team. They are the best team in the Big Ten. And unlike, I think, a lot of people, and probably many of you listening to this, I will root for Michigan. And I know that Ryan definitely feels differently about this. I will root for them because I always root for the Big Ten in these games. And frankly, I'm tired of seeing SEC teams and ACC teams win the national championship and it not be a Big Ten team. So I do want Michigan to win this game. And we're going to get into our predictions a little later. But look, Michigan's offense it's really going to come down, as far as I'm concerned, in this game. It's whether or not J.J. McCarthy can get into a rhythm. Alabama's going to do everything they can to get him off the spot. And when he is flustered, he can throw some errant passes. If they can control the line of scrimmage with Blake Corum and get good rushes, move the ball, I think J.J. McCarthy can pick them apart because their offense is absolutely loaded and Alabama can be had. And so I actually am feeling fairly good about this. I think that Michigan is the better team and that they're strong. I know a lot of people really feel like Alabama's going to win this. What are your takes on this Michigan-Alabama Rose Bowl?
I actually think it's going to be Michigan. I think that they have the quarterback position out of the 2. And as much as I think Beck is a good quarterback at Georgia, I think McCarthy is a more proven guy heading into a game like this. I think Michigan is ready for a game like this. I think at this point, I don't trust Milroe in a game where he has to, when coming down to the fourth quarter where he may need to make plays. I don't trust that. You're not going to get the Auburn luck where you throw a bullet like that to win a game against Michigan. It's not going to happen. They're going to pick you off on that play, which is what should have happened. So I think that this is going to be a game that Michigan should win. I don't believe in the Alabama offense. I think that that's going to be what ends up costing them in this game. Is I just don't think I trust Milroe to be consistent enough for them, and I think that Michigan is good enough defensively to make him uncomfortable.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is just not a typical Alabama team, right? Milroe's not a typical Alabama quarterback, and they don't have the typical line play that they typically have. And their lines are great. Like these are 2 really, really good teams. But yeah, I think that edge is there. And the other thing about Michigan, how close were they last year? That game in the semifinal was brutal for Michigan. Michigan and Ohio State should have honestly been playing each other last year instead of it being TCU and Georgia. So I think that is really what's going to help kind of push Michigan over the edge, right? This is a team that has been through a lot this year. And whether or not you agree with anything that's happened to them and whether you think they should be penalized, they shouldn't be in this game, they do have that Michigan versus everybody mentality. And it got them through another Ohio State game. And I think this is the year they can kind of break through that and just, hit that next gear, which they need to. And honestly, it's a little crazy that they didn't even do it last year. The other college football playoff game, Texas against Washington. So Texas actually is favored in this game. Again, we'll do our predictions at the end, but for me, Texas has the line. Their trenches, they've got a great O-line, they've got a great D-line, and Washington is a Pac-12 team, not exactly, known for their defense and known for their amazing line play. But I think that Texas will have the advantage here because of that. Quinn Ewers is a great quarterback. Arch Manning's going to be backing him up because the other guy left to go to some other, I think it's an SEC school somewhere. But Washington, of course, undefeated. They deserve to be here. An amazing year. Michael Penix Jr., another Heisman Trophy finalist. Justin, initial takes on Washington and Texas.
It'll be interesting to see how Washington's offensive line holds up in this game. If they give Penix time to throw, I fully think that Washington can hang with them and can maybe even run away from Texas offensively, because they're that good with their passing game when things are on. If they can't, and Penix is running for his life, the Texas could probably win this game fairly convincingly. I think that if we're talking about the athlete side of this, Texas, they have more pedigree when it comes to that. I really like Washington, and the coach is a great coach, but a lot is going to be put on this game of whether the offensive line can allow them time to sit back there and make the plays they've become accustomed to, because Texas has probably got more in their trenches than what Oregon had. So
right.
That's going to be the difference to me.
Mike Witt says, but just imagine if Bama wins and Bucky beats the defending national champion next year. Mike, I love the optimism, my friend. I love it. Zach Bartz, thank you for clearing this up. Malik Murphy went to Duke via the portal. That was the backup. So Arch Manning will be backing him up. Yeah, like I said, I think that this is about line play, and Washington is just not a team that I feel like look, I think Oregon was one of the best teams in the country this year, by the way. And I think they were even better than Washington, but Washington did beat them twice. So fair kudos to them. I just don't think that the Huskies are going to be able to slow down Texas's offense, honestly. And I just feel like the O-line play of Texas is going to eat through the D-line of Washington. That's going to be a problem. And games are won in the trenches. We know that. The Big Ten and SEC teams know that, and Texas is joining that club now. I just don't really feel like it's going to happen, which is why I think Washington is going to struggle in the Big Ten next year. Not struggle, be one of the worst teams, but they're not going to be this. They're not going to be an undefeated team playing in our conference, because they just, in my opinion, don't have the physicality that you really need to win our league. So that's going to be an interesting game as well. A couple other quick games before we get into our predictions. Oregon Liberty, man, Justin, that could be really ugly. I mean, Liberty,
that is going to be ugly.
Yeah, group of 5 teams that deserves to play in the New Year's Six, but Oregon, like I said, one of the better teams in the country. And then our lovely friends, the Iowa Hawkeyes, are going up against an SEC opponent, Tennessee. So there's some fun games to watch tomorrow. And any thoughts on those two games?
Sure. Anyone that watched Oregon play Colorado earlier in the year, and how they just blitzed them and were up like 42-7. It would not shock me if that's what happens against Liberty. I think Oregon is that athletic and that good that they could run Liberty right off the field. And I actually think that is most likely what's going to happen in that game. They're going to get hit, and they better be ready. Otherwise, it's going to get ugly quickly for Liberty.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I think that's going to be yikes. We'll get into a few more comments here. Bo Dragon says Texas will overlook Washington, just like all Texas teams. Washington will work them. Wow, Bo Dragon. Okay. Dark Ray says Washington had some bad performances this year. I'm going with Texas. Mike, are you guys excited about pre-snap penalties next year with Nelson coming back? Justin, I'm going to leave this one to you.
Hey, to his credit, he did improve as the season went on at the tail end. The last couple games, I don't think he had a penalty. So if that's the case, hopefully those days are gone and he's adjusted. And that's what I'm hoping for. The offensive line, low key to me, is one of the areas that I expect the most improvement in this next year, because I expect a lot of these guys to be way more comfortable with the way that we play offense, or our offensive line play is heading into year 2.
Yeah. Bo Dragon, Tennessee destroys Iowa 7-3. Robert Klein, Roll Tide, I hate Michigan, and Tyler Streber. Iowa is going to get smacked tomorrow. Listen, Tyler, I don't think Iowa gets smacked by anyone, just because their defense just doesn't allow a lot of points.
Getting smacked could be like 24-7 though.
Right. And it's going to be really, look, Iowa is Iowa, and who knows what the heck's going to happen. But all right, man, let's get into making some selections.
The Bucky Report predictions.
All right, we're going to make this interesting, Justin. We're going to pick these games with the spread. We are going to start. Oh, yeah, go. You have a comment.
I'm going to cut this off right before Tyler, because this is actually an interesting question. Does Rucci transfer with Nelson staying? I don't know. This is actually something that I've actually questioned myself on this one. No matter what, he's got to get film. So if he's ready to play, he's got to be rotated in with Nelson this next year, because you have to get Rucci on the field if you want to keep him. So I think that's going to have to be a question. If they haven't, I know they do end of season interviews or meetings with their coaches. I would anticipate that's going to be in the discussion with him, and that they're effectively going to say, yeah, you're going to split time this year, and then we're going to, hopefully he's going to go to the NFL and you're going to take over for your senior year.
Yeah. Agree with you on that. All right, so we're going to pick this with the spread. VRBO Fiesta Bowl, Verbo, whatever Fiesta Bowl. Liberty versus Oregon. Oregon is 18-point favorites. Game is at 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Justin, what is your pick with the spread?
I'm picking Oregon to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to make a score prediction on this one. I think it's going to be something like 45-14, like with a late touchdown by Liberty.
Yeah, I mean, I for all the picks that we're making, by the way, I've already made a parlay bet with all of my selections. So if what I say today comes through, it'll be a great day. But that never happens because my picks always suck. But that being said, I'm also taking Oregon with the points. Liberty's just outmatched. I'm sorry. You're just outmatched. You of all the group of 5 teams and of all the group of 5 teams that have made it to this level that have played in the New Year's 6 games, there's been some good ones. There have been some really good ones. Liberty's not really that team. Okay. And Oregon absolutely could have played in the college football playoff and would have competed very well with any of those teams. So I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen. This Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, Iowa 17th ranked Hawkeyes against 21st ranked Tennessee. Tennessee -5.5. I'll go first on this one. I'm taking the Hawkeyes, not because I think they're actually going to win the game. I think they lose by 3. But I don't think beating Iowa by more than 3 points is not easy. Okay, because Iowa's going to find ways to do some things defensively. Now, really, really good teams like the Michigans of the world and the Penn States, and those teams did put up points against Iowa and actually beat them fairly handily. I don't think that happens against Tennessee because, once again, I do think that Big Ten teams perform pretty well in bowl games, and I think we kind of get up for these things. Iowa will be the same way. I think Iowa covers, but still loses.
Yeah, I think for me, Tennessee is going to cover in this one. I actually think it's not going to be a crazy scoring game, but I don't believe in the Iowa offense, and I 100% think that you could trip over your own feet as Tennessee, and you're more talented than them. So this is one of those games where I think, like I brought up 24-7. I think it's going to be something like 21-6 or something like that. Iowa might get a couple field goals. I just don't think that Iowa's got anything offensively that a decent team really truly fears.
Okay. So if you're keeping track so far, if you want to make your parlay card to match mine, which will inevitably be a loser, okay, I've got Oregon and Iowa so far. All right, first college football playoff game, Rose Bowl, Alabama, Michigan, 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Michigan is 1.5-point favorites. Justin, who are you taking?
Michigan. I'm going to go. I actually think they're going to win by like 10. And I might be wrong on this, but I'll say 34-24.
Yeah, I feel like Alabama's the sexy pick right now. Everyone thinks, Alabama's going to just win another national championship.
Well,
I don't.
They need to prove it now that they were right. The eye test top 4 team.
Right. And so I don't think it's going to happen.
They had a lot of bad games during this season.
Right. Yeah. So I think Michigan takes this game as well. I think Michigan wins by maybe 3-5 or something. I think it's gonna be a close game. I don't think anyone's running away from Alabama, and I don't think anyone's running away from Michigan. So this game's close, but frankly, the better quarterback, the better team overall. I think in Michigan, they've got better weapons, so I think Michigan wins and covers. The next playoff game, Sugar Bowl, number 3 Texas against number 2 Washington. Texas, while they're the 3 seed, actually are 4-point favorites currently. Game is tomorrow night at 8:45 Eastern. I'll take this one first. I'm taking Texas to cover. I think Texas wins this game because of the trenches. I think Washington is a good team who's played in a conference that had an up year. I mean, the Pac-12 in their final year of existence actually was a pretty good league. But I just think that Texas is built more like an SEC or a Big Ten team. They're going to be an SEC team next year. I feel like they play like that because when you have D lines and O lines that play that well and a really great quarterback in Quinn Ewers. Now, let's be honest. This is going to be an offensive juggernaut showdown here. You've got really, really good play callers on either side of the ball. You've got 2 great coaches. So it's really going to be mind games, a chess match, but when you have those kinds of offensive play callings and you have a lot of unique designs to the plays, what matters is your lines. And that's the difference to me in this game. Texas covers, wins by 7, in my opinion.
Yeah, if this had taken place earlier in the year when Washington was playing as good as anybody in the country, I would have probably leaned more towards Washington. They kind of faded towards the second half, and I realized that they still beat Oregon, but they weren't the same team in the end of the season. They weren't blowing teams off the field quite as much as what they were early in the year. And I think that that's kind of where it is. I think Texas just came together more as the season went on. And there's a chance here, maybe I'm wrong. You know, we kind of saw this with Wisconsin when Wisconsin had their Rose Bowl team against TCU, where you looked like we came together and we're just crushing everyone heading in, and then the time off basically just killed us. There's a chance that happens to Texas here. But I'm still going to lean, and Texas is going to cover in this one, in my opinion. And I would say it's going to be something like, let's say 38-31, something like that. It's going to be a crazy game.
Okay. Mike Witt asked an interesting question that I definitely will give my take on. Will Harbaugh be in the NFL next year? Yes. In my opinion, he absolutely will be in the NFL next year. I think, similar to what happened with Pete Carroll when he was at USC, and you see these mounting NCAA violations coming, he's out. He's going to the league, and that's the end of it. I think Harbaugh does the same thing. I'm assuming do you agree? Do you think Harbaugh is the coach of Michigan next year?
Well, with everything kind of already handled, unless there's something bigger yet to come, it's hard for me to say. Honestly, I know people keep saying that there's all these teams that want him in the NFL. I questioned, has the game maybe passed him a little bit in the NFL with how everything's changed over the last 6-7 years? Like, is it possible that he's not going to be the guy that he was there anymore? I mean, the game has offensively changed quite a bit since he was last in there.
I think the argument could definitely be made, but I also think that Harbaugh will. He probably will
get
a job. He's going to.
Somebody will offer it to him just because he was a winner there. But yeah. I don't know necessarily that it's a different game than it was, and I'm not sure he's had to make those changes at the college game the same way they have at the NFL.
I agree. I don't know that he's going to be successful, but I do think he's going to the league, and he could be coming here to Vegas and coach the Raiders. Who knows? All right, Justin, the Reliaquest Bowl, formerly known as the Outback Bowl, formerly known as the Hall of Fame Bowl, Wisconsin versus LSU. LSU 9-point favorites. So it started out around 14, at least the line that I saw, and it's progressively gone towards Wisconsin because, of course, of Jane Daniels not playing. That being said, when all the money's going one way, I don't know. I'm a little worried about this. Give me a score prediction. Of course, you're obviously going to pick the line here. Give me a score prediction, Justin, and your player of the game.
Yeah, honestly, in this one, I think that LSU is going to win. My score prediction is 31-20. And I think that the player of the game for us, it's probably going to be Mordecai. I think he's just going to go out gritty. He's going to do everything he can, but I'm not confident that this offense can be crisp enough and good enough to win in a game like this where scoring is going to be a requirement.
Yeah, so for me, look, because Wisconsin does play well in bowl games, and I've said this before, I think they show up for it. I think you're going to see I think Wisconsin covers tomorrow, but I do not think we win the game. And I think it's really, really close to not covering. So my final score prediction is actually 24-17. And I know that's kind of a boring score line, but I do think that we're going to be able to score a little bit. But and frankly, let me be honest. If it's 31-17 or 38-17 or 45-10, I'm not going to be surprised. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not going to be surprised at all to see a blowout because LSU is full of athletes and our team has struggled a lot in that department. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. It's just, I just don't, I wanted so badly to pick the Badgers in this game, and I wouldn't surprise me if we won because nothing does surprise me at this point. But I do think that LSU is simply the better team. And another key factor, their only loss is Jane Daniels, their only real significant loss. Mm-hmm. And for us, we've got DK and Allen, two huge players on our offense that are not going to be there. And
I'll one up you. I was going to say it's our center is the biggest loss there. That absolutely changes things from the offensive line standpoint. But look at Badger Bournemouth going with Wisconsin wins. Hey, I wanted to. Don't get me wrong. I would love for us to win this game.
Of course.
I just this is a process right now. I look at with the Wisconsin team. And I'm just not sure from a talent perspective we're on the same page as what LSU is quite now. Now, in 2 years, we might be talking differently because some of these young guys will be developed and ready to fill in for bigger roles. But right now, I'm not sure that we have enough weapons to be able to play with a team like this.
Yeah. Some more predictions from you guys. Dark Ray says LSU will cover, unfortunately. Tyler Schreiber, 34-17 LSU. Bo Dragon, this game's over before halftime. Mordecai gets sacked into oblivion. Oh, boy. Mike Witt, Tretch catches 6 for 75 and 2 touchdowns. Book it. I'm with you on the 6 catches, Mike. I don't know about the 75 and I don't know about the 2 touchdowns, but I would love for him to see that. Bo Dragon says, how the heck do you think we score on LSU? We can't run or throw. Well, yes. I mean, it's fair. It's who knows. Tyler says, just hoping UW doesn't get embarrassed tomorrow.
We scored on Ohio State, and their defense is a heck of a lot better than what LSU's is.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's a very good point. I mean, when we have played up to our opponents throughout the season and certainly down to our opponents as well. But so there's that. Thank you guys for joining us on New Year's Eve. Hope the New Year's Day is great for all of you. And once again, and I'm going to let Justin say his piece as well on this. This has been such a great 3 months. To end the year, we both just wanted to say thank you once again. We have been so happy to be able to do this show and to have all of you listening and commenting and feedback and questions and everything. So if there's anything you want to see changed about the show going into the new year, if there's topics you want us to see talk about, please send us an email at thebuckyreport@gmail.com. You can obviously tweet either of us. I'm at Rajiv Badgers and he is at Bucky Report JJ. Those are on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Certainly reach out to us. Any feedback that you have, we really appreciate. But this has been such a special, fun project for us this year. And I'm so super happy to do it. Justin, any thoughts that you have on that?
I'm going to throw this out there real quick. One last comment. Daniel Bloom, you guys are underestimating this coaching staff. Badgers win. I'm not underestimating the coaching staff. I'm underestimating the roster that they have right now. And that's not a slight to the coaching staff. It's just they don't have the players that they want for what they want to do right now. And it's going to be a process. I really like this team long-term where this coaching staff can take them because I think it's an amazing staff. I'm not quite sure we're there for a game like this. This bowl game was not the bowl game that we were expecting to get thrown into, which is a big part of it. You don't normally get a 7-5 team in the Outback Bowl. But yeah, that said, I appreciate everything from everybody. It's been amazing the last 3.5 months or so. You guys have been so appreciative of the time, and it's been so nice to have you guys come on live with us like this and interact. We love doing it. I really enjoy having you guys put in your perspective on things, and especially on the messages on the videos themselves and responding to you guys. But yeah, anything you guys want changed, anything you guys want added, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much for getting us to the 1,000, and hopefully we can just keep on rolling on that. But thank you guys a ton. Really appreciate it. Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah, we're definitely going to keep this going next year. Obviously, basketball season's in full swing, so we will be talking about that after the bowl game. We'll break down the bowl game and some things with football season, give out some other type of award type things, and then we'll push forward into basketball. We'll continue to be doing our twice a week, our Sunday full shows, and then our shorter ones during the week. The days might switch up here and there depending on the basketball. But with that, on Wisconsin, going to be a great day tomorrow. New Year's Day is always a special day for me because of the football, so I'm excited about that, and hopefully the Badgers can kick off this season in the right way. Until next time, on Wisconsin. On Wisconsin.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bucky Report or The Bucky Report Podcast from wherever you get your content. Until next time, on Wisconsin.